We're looking at one of the newer offerings from Lancer, and this one holds a few surprises, including a unique feature. And we're going to check it out in this episode of Airsoftology Reviews. So in my hands, I have the Lancer Tactical LT18BT Advanced Recon Carbine. And that might be kind of a long name, and you're going to usually find these under the Advanced Recon Carbine lineup name. But there's some really neat stuff going on with this Lancer Tactical. And I'm going to tell you, if you guys are familiar with Lancer, sometimes they're known for good budget guns, you know, like right around that $200 price point. Well, this one is very different. We're going super premium. All right, so externals, we're gonna talk about on the outside, and let me tell you what, this thing is built like a tank. It does have a little more heft than your average airsoft gun just because of the build. The rail on the front, we're gonna start with that. It is key mod, comes with 3 big old sections on here, like 10 plus rail sections. Triple of those. The rail sections themselves are made of polymer. However, the rail is made of metal. Now this rail does have, like I said, key mod on the side. Keep in mind it is airsoft spec key mod. So if you guys are looking for rail segments, you should have plenty here in the box, but you're gonna wanna pick up airsoft spec to go with that. Because of the build, it's such thick metal. Adds a ton of weight, but not too much weight. Don't get me wrong. The build quality on this is really nice. It is nice and hefty and feels solid. There is zero wobble or play in this gun with the rail. Underneath that, you're gonna find a inner barrel or outer barrel here in this case, 14.5 inches on this one. It does come in a couple different variations in lengths. We are looking at the longer one here. And on this rail, we have some swivel sling quick detachment points here on the 45s left and right. So you can put a swivel sling there and of course match up with the one here back on the body, which we're gonna talk about the body in a second, but I wanna finish up what's on top first. Moving across the top, we do have flip up sights. They are made of polymer, front and rear. They do lock into place. You have to press the button to move them back down. They're removable, takes an Allen key. You can pop those things right off. The front rail on this version is black. The body is a very good looking kind of coyote flat dark earth. I would say probably closer to that flat dark earth color. And then all the other accents are two-tone. On the body itself, it is one big piece. You can tell they've done a good job on the machining on this. Rail space across top for your optics obviously does continue on with that top rail, and then a continued trigger guard. So there's no like little flippy trigger guard. It's all one big metal piece and it is thick. You are not gonna break this. You're gonna have to try very, very hard if you wanna crack this part. They really feels very reinforced. Also around all the buttons, everything is raised, so you do have a little, like it's easy to find. You can't accidentally get outside of it, and you won't bump some of the buttons, but I do wanna talk about some of these buttons too. This is a full ambidextrous gun. So you do have the mag release on the left and the right, which I love. Even being a righty, to be able to reach up with my left hand and just grab that mag out because that button's there. They're oversized and they stick out quite a bit, which makes it really easy to press. Although, just being slightly critical here, when you do lay it down, it does bump that button so your mag can unseat, at least on this left side one, this off side one. So just being mindful of that when you have it. So when you do lay it down, that side down, you could pump that and take that mag out of battery. So that's gonna be on the battlefield. Now, if you're in the safe zone, it doesn't matter at all. Your mag should not be in your gun anyway. So that's why I say it's just a minor little detail. Also, fire selector is not ambi, unfortunately, on this one. It does have safe semi-full, really good etched markings here of single bullet, multiple bullets, and no bullets at all. On the left-hand side, you see Lancer Tactical. On the right is the Lonex mark, because that's who makes this gun. It's a partnership between the two companies, which means when we get to internals here in a few moments, you know we're gonna be talking about some serious stuff. Rounding out the externals, we do have those swivel sling attachment points I mentioned earlier, but no clip on one. So they make you dedicate to those swivels. And unfortunately, they don't give you one in the box. I was kind of hopeful they would do that. So you're gonna need to pick those up afterwards. But again, they're super affordable. Nice, comfortable grip here. It is ambi on that, nice, smooth, nice fat feeling in the hands and a finger groove, but not so much it eats into you. And then an included mid cap, which I was actually surprised to see him put a mid cap. Lonex is known for their fast mags, those fast loading high caps, but they opted for kind of a P-mag-ish looking, kind of a little bit of a change difference on the styling. Mid cap on this, 120 rounds, and I think they went with the mid cap because most guns of this tier you're gonna be using at milsim events or big outdoor fields, and they're gonna be requiring you to use mid caps in a lot of games. I've seen a lot of the higher end companies for their more expensive guns that are north of $300 at retail for US pricing go with mid caps because that's pretty much the audience, versus high caps you're gonna find primarily in guns that are sub $300. And the last thing before we get to internals is the externals. It's the stock here. Swivel sling attachment points here on the back. You do have some points you might be able to clip in, but again, they're making you commit to that. Rubber butt pad here, button on the back will let you press it, hinge this open, access the battery compartment. You have room to put a small like buffer tube brick battery or buffer tube style this way in it, which I think is nice. They give you a little bit of room so you kind of can get that in there. And then you do have these removable little things here. I guess they're little caps, and you'll be able to put a battery down each side. What I like what they did, because there is no room in the buffer tube, we're gonna talk about that in internals in a second, that is capped off, is you get rather large ones. You can fit a buffer tube style LiPo down each of the sides. So you actually can have 2 or even 3 batteries in the stock, which I like. Styling also is kind of what everybody's going for these days. It's very modern, it's stylish. It has a good vibe to it, a little more tactical looking here. It is easy to move back and forth, no problem there. So yeah, overall, I think the stock is pretty darn nice. All right, now to internals, and we're gonna talk about what's under the hood briefly. It's Lonex, right? So you're talking about very, very, very upgraded internals. You can throw a spring to make this shoot 500 feet per second. No problem in here, not bat an eye. This gun will take it, chew it up, and spit it right out, and not in a bad way. You can throw the kitchen sink at it and have all the beefy high FPS that you're looking for because it is Lonex. The upgraded gear sets, the polycarbonate piston head that's ported, the Teflon coated cylinder, all the works there. You're looking at very high-end, robust internals on this. So don't be afraid to beat the crud out of this gun and, you know, put whatever spring you want in. If you want to kind of maybe DMR this or use it for a platform for, let's say, maybe a high rate of fire build, if you want to go that route and make some other changes. But if you do want to go that route, keep in mind here in the grip, you do have a very high torque motor. You also have a high torque gear set in here. So when it comes to the chrono section, you're going to see in a section, the rate of fire isn't the best. We're not looking at a high rate of fire, but that doesn't affect the trigger response, which is still fantastic because it's so much torque. It's like a big dump truck pulling a stump out of the ground. No problem. You can pull that trigger and it's crisp. Full auto, you don't have to like drive that thing 150 miles an hour. You're gonna have to make some changes in here. But, and I think most of that's gonna be with the motor. You can make a change there and probably get a big bump in rate of fire. But if you're gonna be getting this gun in that mid cap, typically you're not gonna be shooting full auto that much, so it's probably not that big of a deal for you anyway. Rounding out the internals, I wanna show you here in the stock, we're gonna kind of go into the back here. I'm gonna show you in here. You'll see that nice bright reddish, orangish kind of colored thing in there. This is your adjustable spring. Now what's really cool about the adjustability on the spring on this one, and this is what I think they've gone and done something very different in this gun, I kind of like what they did, is they've made it so you can make your spring adjustment from right here in the buffer tube. You open the door, Allen key right there. It's a rather large one. It looks like about like maybe a 6-ish millimeter, 5-ish millimeter. I'm not exactly sure the size. It comes right out, long thread, so it takes a while. Once you do that, you're gonna be able to pop that cap off, take out the really long spring guide in there, and then pull the spring right on out. So you get the big metal spring guide comes out, spring comes out. So if you need to turn this thing down to 350 for indoor fields, no problem. You wanna crank it way up for DMR because your field will let you do that, you can do that too. So I think they've really hit the perfect sweet spot for a true M4 style quick change spring system without having to even take a pin out of the body. I gotta get my hat tip over to Lonex and Lancer for partnering on this one to create what I would truly call a real quick change spring system. Taking out to the chrono, this is what you'd expect from a high-end gun. We're knocking on the door of 400 feet per second. We're actually floating right below it, which is the perfect spot in my opinion because you're not gonna be over chronoing. Again, this is with 0.2 gram BBs. We're gonna see right under that 400 feet per second mark. Like I said, rate of fire wasn't that great, but it's still not bad. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have a very healthy full auto rate of fire, but just nothing over the top. You're not gonna see something break into the 20 rounds per second. But again, when you're looking at these higher end field guns you're gonna take out to big milsim events or outdoor fields, or you wanna have the interchangeability with lower springs, having a little bit lower rate of fire is not a bad thing at all. So if I had to say one thing about this gun, I mean, I was nitpicking on the little paddle, it's no big deal, right? If I had to say one thing that I really wish they would have included in this, would have been a Mosfet. I think when you get to this tier gun, a lot of players today expect that Mosfet, but the trade-off, and I know why they did it, because they had to take up that buffer tube with this new quick change spring system. They weren't gonna be able to fit that in the system, and I understand that, totally understand they can't get both in there, and they really went on kind of a new path for this true quick change spring system. And I appreciate them doing that. I think that's where this gun shines. If you're a player that plays indoor and outdoor, you go back and forth, making an investment in a gun like this is going to be a very smart play for you because it is so quick to make that change over and over again to go from 350 to 400 or even 300 to whatever your field limits are. This makes it truly simple with zero tech skills required. If you're looking for something with a little more bells and whistles and bursts, there's other guns out there, but I think this one really does shine for that player who's looking for that adjustability or someone who likes to do upgrades and stuff, because again, with the internals, you can throw pretty much whatever you want in here and this gun's gonna work no problem. So that's the review. I want to know what you guys think. Oh, price point, like I said, just north of 300. I think this one right here is $329 US, and of course you can pick it up at Airsoft GI. They have it in stock, and a few other places do as well. I'll have a link as always down in the description below if you guys want to go pick one of these up on your own. And I want to know what your thoughts are about this, the quick change spring system. What do you think about that? What do you think about the ambi controls? Because these buttons look different. They're not just taking a standard design. They've actually made their own style for the ambi controls in this gun, which I like. And I do like the fact that everything sticks out really far. Even the bolt catch to open up to get to that barrel style, that nice rotary style hop top that everybody loves, to have like the release on both sides. Really neat touch, but I want to know what you guys think about that below. Also, is a Mosfet a big deal? I mean, or is it just kind of a buzzword? It's just kind of one of those things that, oh yeah, we throw a Mosfet in a gun. Or would you rather just save up and get like a burst trigger, which will drop right in here, no problem, something like a Spectre or something along those lines, or one of the new Gate ones, and then you can turn this thing into a programmable beast. I want to know all your thoughts in the comment section below. I will be down there watching and reading every single one. But until next time, go out, play some airsoft, have some fun, but no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.